It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
It's that time again, another Wednesday, another Cats Talk Wednesday, coming to you live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, courtesy of the BS3 Network. Terry TB Brown in Des Moines, Vinny Hardy outside of Knoxville. TB, you texted me a few days ago wondering what in the world we talk about because we just don't have anything happening. And lots went down since we were on last week. A lot of news happened. A lot of changes, era's ending. New era about to start. So here we go, man.
Yeah. Pretty crazy stuff, to be honest with you. Sunday was one of those, the best time to be on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Am I breaking up?
Yeah. So I think your mouth is off from the sound, but I'm hearing everything loud and clear. Sure am.
Okay.
Sure
well, am. I got a new computer. I might not have it set up right.
Oh, it's right. Yeah, you good though. You sound good. Michelle
okay.
is already
all right. We good.
Michelle's already announced her presence. She is here, so we appreciate that. Appreciate her always being here. But yeah, Sunday. It happened fast. Late Sunday night. Boom, boom, boom. Cal leaving. Arkansas, and officially landed in Fayetteville today. Introduced him.
Yeah.
I think right now, coming up at 6:00 y'all's time. So any minute now.
Yeah. So it was Sunday. I had seen a tweet. I can't remember who it was from that said Cal to Arkansas. And I'm like, well, that's wild. I thought Cal maybe would leave, but Arkansas, that felt weird, right? And so the wife and I watched a movie, had my phone on Do Not Disturb, and then all of a sudden, I pick it up after the movie, and it's like, oh, blown up. TB, what do you think? Blah, blah, what's going on? Blah, blah. I'm like, oh. I'm like, is this a real thing? And so then I'm up, like everybody else, trying to process this in real time here. And it was just a wild night. So here we are. Cal's gone. We are looking for a new coach. One of those things, look, there's a lot of things that can be true at the same time. One, Cal's run was great. Overall, 15 years, start to finish, a great run. It didn't end on the best note, but these things rarely do. Like this is kind of how these things go. Best case for everybody gets a fresh start.
That's it.
Because again, after the Oakland game, look, man, I'm a sunshine pumper. I wear that label. But after the Oakland game, after Golke went bombs away, put the Cats out, I was like, that's a wrap, man. He can't come back here to coach. Right? We talked about this last week. It was like, I don't think this will work because the pressure is just going to be too crazy. It was crazy this past year.
And it's just going to stack.
Right.
Stack.
Because it got to the point, anytime anybody said or did anything about Kentucky basketball, it was wait till March. And that's just no way to go through the season. Like, I don't think we appreciated the Rob Dillingham experience enough because it was always in the context, we got to at least get to the Elite Eight. This team's got to get to a Final Four. Well, things happen on the way there.
And a lot of times he showed out and we lost, like the Tennessee game. And, I was like,
Right. So he had that bad luck of that. But for me, the run was over. And this is how it goes in Kentucky, right? Outside of Pitino, nobody, look, you and I talked about this when Coach K retired. This is not a job where you get that right off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't that. You know, Rupp was too old. Hall had to go because Denny Crum was kind of doing his thing in Louisville. Of course, Sutton had to go, right? I mean, that's obvious. But, you know, Tubby kind of ran out of time. Billy G was a had to go. And Cal here. So, or right now. So this is not the job where you get those warm and fuzzies. This is what happens, basically. Right? All five we got all these coaches that have won national championships, right? They win it, and it's like, can you get back? And climbing that mountain with those extra expectations, it just gets harder.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the whole Cal experience was, this was the first time we'd ever given a coach the ability to do that. And it just didn't work out. I don't think it's fair to say the fans ran him out.
I don't either. That's kind of bugging me too. And I didn't mean to cut you off. There's fans outside the fans of other teams saying that. There's, you know, people within the fan base saying that. Tennessee fan friends, y'all ran him off. I don't say the last 4 years is the evidence. That's exhibit A, you know.
And look, I'm as hard on the crazy Kentucky fans as anybody. You know, as I say, every night, wife and I have dinner. She asks me, what are Kentucky fans mad about? And the reason she does is, one, there's always something. And two, what they mad about on Wednesday ain't got nothing to do with Tuesday, and Thursday could be something completely unrelated. Now, I say that, and all right, yeah, I'm gonna get angry. but
whatever that tweet was, we couldn't see it, Jason. It just had like a link, and it didn't really show the tweet, so that's why.
He says, I want angry Terry tonight. No more some nice guy. But I say that, what are Kentucky fans about? Because sometimes there's legitimate stuff, like the Big Z situation. That's legit. What are we doing? Right? Like that was something to be angry. So there is legitimate stuff.
Right.
So, but I acknowledge there is that portion of the fan base that they're wild as hell, man. However, again, I'm a sunshine pumper. Hey, Mark, thanks for listening, man. Appreciate it. I pump sunshine all the time. Mm-hmm. But again, because I want to say it was when Oakland hit that last three to put them up 4. Yeah. And it was like, oh, snap. I turned the game off. I did. I was like, okay, that's a wrap. And then I turned to my wife and I said, Cal got to go. Like the writing is on the wall. This isn't us running him off. This running him off would be, you know, an Elite 8, a Sweet 16, whatever, last couple of years. That's running somebody off, right? Mm-hmm. But one tournament win in the last 4 NCAA tournaments,
right?
That's not running off. It just isn't. And I know, you know, they want to paint Kentucky fans as that. That's not going to get it done. The performance of that.
When he had in his book, the rut we were in before he got here, and how that wasn't the standard, whatever it was, the drought and the tournament and all that. And he said that's not what the standard is. And now here he's in that same boat as what he was coming to fix. So, you know.
That's not the standard, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look, so for me with Coach Cal, I've said this, he is the guy that made Kentucky basketball cool. Not good, not great, that was already done, but he made it cool. What do you mean, Terry? Like, again, everybody that was born and raised in Kentucky basketball, that's great. Your papa took you to the games, your grandma got you Kentucky shirts when you was knee-high to a grasshopper. That's fantastic. That's great, right? Yeah. I came into it late. Admittedly so. What I'm saying is, when I was growing up, Louisville basketball had the Doctors of Dunk. That's a cool nickname. And then in '83, they played Phi Slamma Jamma.
Yeah.
Man. Then you had Hoya Paranoia.
Yep.
Right? And then you had Tart the Shark. You had Lou Carnesecca in the sweaters. You had Big John Thompson in the towel. You had the Fab Five. You had just this thing, North Carolina, and the weird kind of family thing they do. You know, Duke with their but Kentucky's whole thing for 80 years is we're just better than you. Right? We've had some very, very good players. I'm not knocking the players. But we ain't had no Kareem or a Bill Walton, right? We haven't had that. We haven't had a Michael Jordan come through. The Kentucky scenario has been we're going to have 5 or 6 very, very good players, and we're going to beat you. We're going to beat you up and win, right? That was very businesslike, very effective. I'm not knocking the coaches. Pitino was a little bit different, but it was still, you know. But then Cal shows up, and then we have the John Wall thing, right? That's a thing. That Kentucky is cool, man. The John Wall dance. That team was a group of rock stars that it made Kentucky cool, right? And on top of that, you know, we have our first National Player of the Year. I was talking to my wife the other day. It was like when Alabama got their first Heisman Trophy winner in 2009.
Right.
When you hear that, you're like, what?
Joe Namath
but you think because of Alabama football, Kentucky basketball, you would think, but that wasn't the case. But we were cool, man. And I think it was
Bart Starr with the Alabama. I mean, you know.
Right. But I think it was Andy Katz that was talking about things that we don't even that kind of. Cal put Kentucky basketball on the radar all year long. Our open practices were on TV.
He made it like the NFL from that standpoint.
We had pro day.
All the time. Yeah.
Right? And I know people, you know, have a love-hate thing with Cal in the draft, but it's still people talking about Kentucky basketball in June. Right? So it had this thing, and it made it cool. I have seen Kentucky stuff in Louisville in places I didn't think I'd ever see it.
Saturating the West End.
In the West End, man. Look, when I decided to go to the University of Kentucky in 1995, I may as well have been going off to Russia because it was just the same mindset. Like, oh, you going there? Like, but then now after Cal, I'm seeing Kentucky stuff everywhere. That to me, he made it cool.
Yo.
So he did a lot of things. You know, we're going to look back.
That's true.
And we're going to really appreciate that first world. That I've said it. I don't think we appreciated that early run enough and how special it was. I just don't think we did. And we'll look back and say, man, that was something. And look, I saw a comment. Yeah, Kentucky's going to be back. Like, I don't know who the next coach is going to be. I'm not saying that woe is us. We're not going to get this right. We are. Whoever it is. If it's Hurley, let it be Hurley. If it's Billy Donovan, let it be Billy Donovan. If it's Scott Drew, let it be Scott Drew. You and I talked about this when we first started doing this show, and Cal was at his peak. And people were always like, well, who's next? Because we always look for who's next. No matter what's going on right in front of us, it's always who's next. I said then, I've been saying last couple of days is you can't get a coach just like Coach Cal. That's not the way it works at Kentucky. Carolina and Duke, they like to promote within the family and all that weird stuff. Kentucky is, we will take a very good coach and make him great. 5 coaches have won 5 different championships or 8 different championships, doing it a different way. Right? Hall didn't do what Rupp did. to win his championship,
Mhm.
right? Pitino didn't do it the way Hall did. Tubby did it different than Pitino, and then Cal did it a different way. So I get Scott Drew is not the sexy pick. Okay.
Yeah.
What he's done at Baylor, I'm old enough to remember the Dave Bliss situation.
Yeah, boy.
I looked it up just the other day. It was worse than I thought. Like, they couldn't play non-conference games. Like, it was bad. Right? So he built that, I don't even know, from the ground up. But he recruits well. He coaches well. Whatever kind of coach you are, you're better in Lexington. It just magnifies you. Like, whatever you are, you're just better in Lexington. Right? Because of just the natural way things go. So whoever it is, Kentucky will be fine. Kentucky will eat. There's a reason Kentucky basketball has been top 10 wins and win percentage every decade going back to the 1930s or 1940. There's a reason for that. You know, when Negroes couldn't play, before the three-point shot, Kentucky's fine. Kentucky's going to be fine.
Michelle pops with a good question in here. You think Cal shows up at the draft and supports our guys?
I think so.
Probably.
For Dillingham and Shepherd, if the families want him there, I think he'll be there. Cal's always been a player's first guy. The reason I think so is, some people have turned this into a bad phrase, but he's been players first. And that's the reason when he went into the Hall of Fame, all those dudes from UMass, from Memphis, Kentucky guys showed up. Whatever we as fans think of Cal, most of his players rock with him on a kind of a different level. So I think he'll show up and support the guys because he supported them.
That's for sure. So we'll get that answered real soon, here in a couple months with the draft, and we'll probably get the answer to the coach real soon.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mitch isn't trying to rush, but trying to be quick and thorough at the same time, and get a coach in and get some players and get the ball rolling on out of that. And
you make Hurley say no. I think that would be the move I would make. Number one, he's a great coach, but number two, if you can get Hurley out of Connecticut, that's a boss move right there, right? Because that's still letting everybody know we still Kentucky. So I think that would be great. But if Hurley doesn't work out, I don't think Scott Drew is I don't want to say consolation prize, because I don't think that's the right tone. But I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, he's going to be more, meat and potatoes like Tubby was, and it'll be different. People have to get used to that if it is him.
Yeah,
everybody that grew up with Pitino and Cal with the big personalities and the flash and the charisma and the pizzazz. So, Scott Drew won't be that, but that doesn't mean he can't come in and do well.
Well, and maybe we need a little bit of, maybe we've gotten tired of. I haven't seen him. Maybe. But look, also when you tell the whole story on Cal, if you want to lead with the last 4 years, that's fine. It was disappointing. Everybody knows what it was, but you have to tell the whole story. And really, it was the stuff he did off the court, from the tornadoes in Western Kentucky to the flooding in Eastern Kentucky in your neck of the woods to, Haiti, hoops for Haiti. And a lot of people, opposing fans, like, well, anybody can do it. Well, anybody wasn't doing it, right? Like, Cal was making that effort to really be a part of the community. That I would like to see move forward. You've got the biggest pulpit in the state. Use it for good. But as far as purely basketball, look, these things happen. I reject that the Kentucky fans ran him off.
Right.
Because I'm not saying that, and I believe a lot of y'all are crazy and fanatics. But
I bristle at that too. Yeah.
I don't think that was accurate. I also, I put this out yesterday, day before, whatever. When did things kind of turn? I would say after the COVID year. After COVID, it just seemed like we couldn't get the mojo back. For me, when I was like, I don't know if he can get it done, was the St. Peter's year. You've got the National Player of the Year, unanimous, and a really good team. They were a 2 seed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And for those that might not be excited and thrilled about Scott Drew, he won the title during the COVID year. When the wheels were coming off for us, they were going through the same thing down there and found a way to succeed. So that's a feather in his cap for those who might be like, Scott Drew, I don't know. We can keep this going, but our guest is in the green room. I can see him now. And
all right.
He is a former executive for TBS, co-host for John Boy and Billy Big Show, coach of the year at the NAIA level from St. Louis. He's retired. He's back in Missouri as we speak. He is our guy. Look, Terry, we talked about how Cameron Mills was one of our first big guests back in 2014. Go back and pull that episode up, and we had this gentleman on right after Cam. I'm talking about Terry Hanson. Terry, bringing you in here, man. It's been a little while. How are you doing? How's retirement treating you?
Doing very well, my man. How about yourself?
Can't complain, man. Can't complain. We don't have anything here to talk about as far as Kentucky's concerned, so we kind of dry on topics.
That's right.
I've got a John Beeline story about college coaching if you want to hear it.
Absolutely.
John Beeline's brother was my assistant baseball coach, and I know him well. He used to come out and work out with us from Buffalo. And when the Michigan job opened up, his name was in the news. So I texted him, and I said, John, your name is in the news. And he got back to me. I said, what would Art and Josephine think? That's his parents. He said, I don't know. He said, why is my name in the news? Ha ha. And I got back to him and I said, John, look, I know Art and Josephine would like this joke. Guy's sitting on a bench and a little thing rolls up to him and says, I'm ahead. And he goes, what? And then the thing rolls away and he comes back again and says, now I'm a grape. And the guy stands up and he smashes him. He just stomps down on him. The moral of the story, quit while you're ahead. John said, yes, my parents would think that, and I agree.
What's he into right now? Is he just?
He's with the Pistons.
Okay.
As some sort of a front office guy, but he was. I thought I'm prejudiced. I thought he was one of the best college coaches around when he was at Michigan, and then he won a taste of the NBA, and he went and signed a 3-year deal with the Cavaliers.
Right.
And those NBA guys weren't into the rah-rah stuff he did at Michigan, and he had a difficult time. And good for him, I guess. He left mid-year of his first year and got paid for 3. So why not, huh?
Nice little exit plan for sure.
Yeah, real good.
For sure. So how's retirement treating you? How's life back in St. Louis?
Well, then I came back here, and Terry back here in 20 to be around my grandchildren, 6 grandkids, 2 daughters, and we see them often. And
Good.
The great thing about retirement, every day's Saturday. And, I get my feet kind of higher than my tail and get on my iPad, then I communicate with you often, and kind of got the TV in the background and go where I want, when I want, and if I want. And that's not a bad a life for me, I'm 70. I'll be 77 in June, so I'm getting up there.
Well, we're not mad at any of that, every day being Saturday and doing
what
you want when you want. Hey, that sounds wonderful. We always talk about Terry. You remember when we had Terry on? I guess specify my Terry's right now, but
that's right. You're confusing me, man.
TB, you remember when we had TH on because when you were at TBS, you were one of the driving forces to get the dream game going with Kentucky and Louisville, because we're not old enough to remember them not playing in basketball, but there was a time when they didn't play annually, and you were behind the scenes and with the network that helped get that off the ground as we know it now, which is amazing.
That's an interesting backstory if you've got a moment.
Oh, we do.
I hired a consultant that worked for me. He also did the Georgetown, Virginia game for me when I was at Turner. And 6 months later, he came to me named Russ Potts. And he said, what about Louisville and Kentucky? And they hadn't played in 63 years, 1983. And I said, well, that'd be terrific. So he came back to me and he goes, okay, he said, Coach Hall doesn't really wild about playing, but, we'll see what happens. We got to talk to Cliff Hagan. So Robert Wussler was my contact at Turner, and he started the NFL Today. And he hired Phyllis George. So I said to him, Mr. Wussler, we need to call Phyllis, because her husband was the governor at the time.
John
Y. Brown, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, maybe, if we need a little oomph, maybe the governor could provide it. But Kentucky they were willing to play. We played on November the 26th, 1983. Kentucky won that game 65-44. Kenny Walker, he had 13. Jim Master had 19. Mel Turpin had 16. It was a good game, and it was fun for me to do. And it was kind of history breaking, because they hadn't played, like I said, 63 years. And Vinny, I think you may have seen a stand up of Joe Dean and Skip Carey coming on air in 1983 for that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you were with Turner, with TBS. You did radio for the John Boy and Billy Big Show. You were a soccer coach of the NAIA level, Coach of the Year. So when you were growing up, did you aspire to be, I want to do TV and I want to do coaching. I want to do radio and I want to do coaching. When did those wheels start turning for you?
Well, I was a pretty decent baseball pitcher going into high school. And the guy who ended up on our team ended up signing a contract I always used to beat in grade school, but I stayed at 5'8". He became 6'4". He got drafted. I didn't. And I thought at that point in time, I might get drafted as a pitcher. So I decided then and there, okay, if I can't play, I will work in sports. And that's what I decided to do. And the coaching job came along from my alma mater. I was getting a master's degree in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And they came to me and asked me if I wanted to come back and start the baseball program. And I not started. I had played there, but it wasn't very good. They only played like 12 games. And so I came back and played 50 games. And I was there the second year. It was a Catholic school. And the president said, Father Gerard said to me, would you like to coach soccer? And I said, no, I really don't. I don't know soccer. I didn't play soccer. And he goes, okay. So a week later, he came back and he said, we had a meeting and decided that our baseball coach at this school will coach soccer. And I said, well, I can do that. And I studied it. I got a smart assistant coach. And within 2 years, you're right, I got that Coach of the Year award. And then that led me to go into the North American Soccer League in the pros, where I was with 3 teams. And the last one I was with Turner's team owned in Atlanta. And that's how I made the jump from soccer to the TV network.
Man,
Now, being a TV guy, I wanted to get your thoughts on the women's tournament this year and just the viewers. And it seems like the women's tournament has been mismanaged up until this point because people want to watch it. So I just want to get your thoughts on just how that's really exploded from small numbers to now the women's championship game outdrew the men.
I've got 2 daughters, and I'm all for women's sports. I was always into Title IX. You're right, Terry, was mismanaged a little bit. I mean, when they can't get the 3-point line straight, That would never happen in men's basketball,
Mhm.
ever.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get that done. Now, I'm a soccer guy, like I told you. The women's soccer team and the national team at the World Cup has been far ahead of time for the last 8 to 10 years. So basketball is now catching up. I think the rivalry between the LSU and Iowa and all those teams and Connecticut and Chino, I think is healthy. A girl worked for me at the PGA Tour that I hired who became the commissioner of the WNBA named Donna
Oh,
Ortner.
okay.
Donna
Wow.
Ortner. So I kind of got hip to the game. And so I think the college girls are coming along, ladies, and they're doing well. And I think they outpaced the guys in ratings this year.
Yeah, the numbers were better, and
Yep.
well, I think part of it had to do because we got to stop tipping that game off at 9:00 Eastern.
Yep.
The men's championship game being that late seems to be a misfire on my just to me as an old person.
You're a smart man. There's a measurement in television called the HUT level, HUT, and that means the homes using television. And on the East Coast at 9:00, you're right. I mean, people aren't going to stay up. That's a mismanaged, misscheduled game. They need to put that more in prime time. And the women deserve that. And I think they're going to get their just desserts because they got a lot of publicity this year. They're in a position of strength. And I think that they're going to command things that are changes as early as next year. And I'll be happy to see that.
Now, I'm not trying to put salt in the wounds, but you're born and raised in St. Louis, diehard Cardinals fan. I don't know their history inside and out, but I know they had the second most World Series. So for me, we had the Cubs fan on last year, Mike last week, Mike Pusateri, for his actor. But I was saying to him last year, Terry, I don't know if I've ever seen the Cardinals struggle that bad in my life. Have they been that bad before, or had stretches like that where they've been that down? Because I've never seen that from them.
A real long time ago, Vinny. They were pretty bad, but they've been real good. But last year they were just awful. Mm-hmm. And as a Braves fan, Chip Carey was on the Braves games all the time.
Yep.
And he was my intern in Atlanta. And Skip, his dad had asked me before he passed away if I could watch out for his boys. Mm. So he's got one son, Josh, in the minor leagues with the Rocket City Trash Pandas, which are down in Huntsville, and then Chip. So when the job opened up here in St. Louis, Chip was in touch with me. He's from here originally, and he said I might be interested in that job. The guy who had it, you talk about a dream. He grew up here like I did, watching the Cardinals, and he had some difficulty with some DUIs and stuff, and he ended up getting fired. And Chip came up, and he leaned on me. I'm to the point now where this is kind of cool. I watch the games, and I will get a text message during the game from Chip asking me, what do you think about this? How about that? How do I sound? So I'm invested, and it's fun for me. And I really enjoy, I like watching the games, but now that I've got an announcer, that I don't rep him or anything, but we're close, and he seeks my counsel, and that's fun for me.
That's amazing. Look, I don't know why we should be surprised, Terry, because we know Terry knows everybody. We know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I love when he comes on. We get those insights on the behind the scenes stuff. People assume they know how things work, but until you've been in the sausage factory, you don't know how the sausage is made.
Absolutely. And Terry, I don't know if you know this or not. Did you know Vinny Hardy worked for me at Hanson Enterprises? He did.
I did. I don't know. Did you say? I don't know if Vinny told me that.
I did not.
I don't think he's too proud of it. Special projects. I was at John Boy and Billy and had my own company, and Vinny was doing special projects for me. He reached out to me via email as a listener, and I was always engaged. You never forget where you came from, and I answered. We went back and forth on emails, and this relationship has been 14 years in making, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that's one of my favorite people.
I appreciate you saying that, man.
He's one of my favorite people too, and that's how this show got started.
You guys are
Our
very
paths crossed.
entrepreneurial.
Yeah. And Vinny was like, "Hey, would you like to do a show?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" Yeah. Person I haven't met. Let's make it happen. And here we are, 11 years later, making it happen. So yeah, that's the kind of person Vinny is.
Well, when he started out, he was still doing a lot of other kinds of work, and then he's made his way up the ladder to this point in time to be on here with you tonight, Terry. And I'm very proud of him. And I think you guys have done a wonderful job. And I'm happy to be on this evening with you.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. It's really been the guests and folks like you that have carved out some time out of their Wednesday evenings to be with us. For a long time, it was just the two of us talking. And then we kind of just started inviting folks on, and it's grown. We've been able to do a lot of things because of this. So yeah, Vinny's a great, he's family, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate
I met his wife Katie, his children, and his daddy. So yeah. I mean, yeah, he's a good buddy. And again, I'm happy to come on. And Terry, anytime to hear from you, anything I can ever do for you guys, you just let me know, huh?
Absolutely, we definitely appreciate it. I got one more question for you, and appreciate the kind words from both y'all, Terry's, because TB, you like a brother, and Terry Hanson, you like another father figure for sure. I listened to your segment today on John Boy Billy, because you're talking about Mark Packer.
Yeah.
And he's of course Billy's son, but there's a lot of differences between the two, even though they're both in media and ACC guys and things of that nature. But you referenced in that segment that you ran the Blockbuster Bowl. So I did not know that. And of course it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl now, which is hilarious. But talk about how you came to be over the Blockbuster Bowl and how that all started, because we all love watching the bowls when bowl season comes. So how did that come to be?
I was at the PGA Tour, enjoy working there as the head of communications and doing their TV negotiations, living in a resort in Florida called Sawgrass. That 17th green hole. I don't know if you're much of a golf fan, but
TPC Sawgrass. Yeah.
My house was. You could see that from my house.
Man.
So I was down there 7 years after I left Turner and Love and Life. And I got a call from Rick Ray at Raycom, who came to me and he said, "Look, I'd like you to come to Charlotte and head up our events division." And he dangled a 5-year contract in front of me. And I was on a handshake at the PGA Tour. So 5 years and my future guaranteed deal. I said, heck, I should probably do this. So I went up there, and I was in charge of a basketball tournament that Dean Smith was the host of, and a couple other things. And one of the responsibilities was the Blockbuster Bowl. Wayne Huizenga at that point in time ran Blockbuster Inc. Remember, he was an owner of the Miami Marlins down there. And,
yeah.
And he was with the Dolphins.
Yeah, the Dolphins and the Marlins,
yeah.
So he financed the game, and I came in my second year. And that game was under my purview. And Mark was working at the Bowl my second year. And the executive director was a guy by the name of Mike Lude, who ended up living there. I let him out of his contract, and he went to Auburn, and he fired Pat Dye and hired Terry Bowden. But I had that bowl, and Wayne had all the money we wanted. He gave us everything we needed. But it was a bowl game that wasn't one of the majors, and it didn't do all that well. I had it on CBS. It had about a 3-year lifespan, and then it went away. But that's where I met Mark. And then when I got to Charlotte working for a sports station, I had him in mind. So I called him, and he came down to interview. And I thought we would interview him for a marketing job. And the general manager said, "I want you to go in the studio and start talking." So Mark went in there, and he did so well. He had the job for 13 years. So he is quite a media guy. And now if you get the ACC network, you'll see him on every afternoon on something called ACC PM.
That's good stuff, man. Because I gotten to know you pretty well, but when I heard you say that my ears perked up. I said, I didn't know he ran the Blockbuster Bowl. I said, I got to ask him about that this evening. So,
well, that was in Florida, and I was in Charlotte, and I would go down there and spend 5 days a month in an office down there. So I managed it from afar, as usual in my life. I hired smart people, and I got all the credit, and they did all the work. It's like when I hired you.
Well, that's what you have to do, right?
You know.
Yeah.
I got a couple Emmys because of that.
Hey, I've seen those Emmys with my own eyes, TB, and this is how far ahead of his time he was. The documentary on the Braves in the 80s, Hard Knocks and all that now, but this was all access to Dale Murphy and all the Braves. I saw the Emmys with my own eyes, and I've watched the documentaries, and it's great, man.
I got to tell you the end story of that. No, you got to run, but let me bore you for another minute and a half. We did that. Ted gave us full access. Anything we wanted. He owned the team. We traveled with him, everything, 4 guys. And it got to the point where, everything was going very, very well. And we just kind of went with the season and all that kind of stuff. But so when we had the special, we put it on the first night. And I'm watching it at home, and we had Torrey mic'd the whole season and all that stuff. And I get a call from the National League office. A fellow by the name of Blake Cullen. And he said, I picked up the phone, and he starts shouting at me. Where did you get that sound? You didn't have permission. We didn't give you that sound to do that. We're going to find you. We're going to find the Braves. And I'm going, geez. And he won't let up. Now I get upset with him. And he said, where'd you get that sound? I said, well, we sewed a microphone in the chest protector of Bruce Benedict, who's our catcher. And he said, why would Bruce Benedict agree to that? And I said, because we pay his salary.
That'll do it.
Will.
I remember Bruce and those teams, just as a little kid on TBS, which is where a lot of Braves fans are Braves fans, going back to those TBS days. Just like
were you a Dale Murphy fan?
Absolutely. He was. I mean, I was a little too young to remember the 82 and 83 team that won the division, but a couple years later, even though they were struggling, to 7-year-old me, it always seemed like, this dude hits a home run every time he gets up to bat. And so, my dad took me down there to watch him play, and we had so much trouble getting a seat in full. No, we didn't. There's a picture of me at that game, and it's just me and my granddad and my aunts, and nobody,
right?
Nobody around us. We got the whole stadium to ourselves. But my dad took me down there so I could watch Murphy and Claudel Washington, Rafael Ramirez, and all those guys play.
I tell you a Dale Murphy story that you will enjoy hearing. Dale was the nicest man in the world, nicest man. And his wife, Nancy, was a real nice lady. And she was at the game one night talking to me and my wife, Patty. And she said, Dale, what about him? He's a good guy, Mormon, great guy, wonderful guy. And she said, so he played a night game on Friday night, and I wanted to let him sleep in. So I took he had 4 children. I took the 4 kids, and I took them to the grocery store early on Saturday morning so Dale could sleep in. And I got home about 9:15, and Dale's in the front yard in a pair of shorts with no shirt on, playing catch with a kid who looked to be about 9 or 10 years old. And I said to him, Dale, what are you doing? And she said, he came up to the door and rang the doorbell, and he asked me if I wanted to play catch. And she said, Dale, and he goes, well, Nancy, he drove all the way out here. So that's the kind of guy Dale Murphy was, or is.
Man, that's just playing catch with, that wouldn't happen today. Just drive up to a random athlete's house and knock on the door and they want to play catch. That's
And to have him play catch with you. Yeah, that's that. But that's how you make those memories, right? Somewhere there's that kid is telling that story. Somewhere,
and
right now, he's telling that story.
I always stress that to my announcers and the people I was around is never forget how much you can make a kid's day just by winking at them. If you've been to the mountain, share it with those kids because it means so much to them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Terry, we can't thank you enough for taking the time and just you responding to an email from some random listener that you had no idea who it was, and entrusting me to do projects for Hanson Enterprises, and thinking I'm one of those smart people that you hired, and you still kept me around.
So history has shown me to be correct, however, because you're doing this right now, huh?
Enjoying it too. Enjoyed it, and Terry.
And you guys are very good at it.
Terry said yes.
We certainly appreciate that. Yeah. Sometimes in life it just takes a leap of faith, right? Like sometimes it just takes that. I'm going to hire this person. I'm going to work with this person. I'm going to marry this person. Like, for all the stuff that we try to use numbers for and analyze, some of the best things in life happen that don't make any kind of sense, right? Like you don't have to get your calculator out to do the math. You just do it.
How did that work? How did that ever work? I mean, Vinny, like I said, reached out, and I was, I was anxious to try to help, and he worked hard, and that's why he deserved to work for me, and that's why things are going so well for both of you right now, Terry.
We certainly appreciate it. Absolutely.
And tell Patty hello and all the rest of the family, and
hello to Katie.
Absolutely. I'll definitely tell her, and have to get out there to St. Louis and holler at y'all one of these days.
Would love to host you in St. Louis. You bring Katie, you bring the kids, you bring anybody. Hell, bring Terry with you.
Yeah.
Hey, St. Louis is great. St. Louis is great, man. Got some friends out in Crevecoeur, that area. Crevecoeur. Right. Yeah. But at least I know what I'm talking about. I know to read it. I know how to pronounce it. But I love St. Louis. It's a great city. I always have a good time in St. Louis.
When you're talking about the pronunciations, I was with the Braves, and Whitey Herzog had just been named the manager of the Cardinals, and I'm in the Braves front office and all that stuff. So I walk on the field, and I see Whitey, and I walked up to him and I said, "Whitey, I've met you before, and I know that you're from the area where I'm from. You're from New Athens, Illinois. That's spelled Athens, Athens, like Georgia, but it's pronounced Athens back here." And he said, "What, Terry? I don't remember you at all, but I do know if you say Athens that you're from around St. Louis."
There you go.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
It's absolutely great. Well, Mr. Terry, we always appreciate having you on. You actually gave our little show some legitimacy, because for the first little bit, like I said, it was just me and Vinny talking.
Yep.
Right.
It was just two guys talking. We were out there, but you helped us because Vinny said, "Hey, we got some special guests," and it gave us a little bit to keep doing what we're doing. Right. That's what we tell folks all the time, because we've seen people that have started shows like this, and I'm like, one, you got to be consistent. That's the biggest thing, is be consistent. You got to work at it. And if you get a guest, hey, that's a step in the right direction. So we really appreciate that.
One of the assignments I gave Vinny was my friend Bob Neal, who you may remember from Turner days, NBA announcer, NFL, college football. And Bob was receiving the Lindsey Nelson Award in Knoxville, and I couldn't go. And I called Vinny and I said, "Would you go up to Knoxville and see Bob Neal and represent me up there and meet him?" And Vinny, you did that.
I sure did. And got to meet Bob, who was just as classy as ever at the National Football Foundation event there. Still got the picture posted on my little Facebook sports page of Bob and myself, and he was just as nice as he could be. And like you talk about making the memory, he he could have been a jerk or a big Tommy or something like that, but he didn't. And I still haven't forgotten that entire event, getting to be there. Enjoyed it.
He wouldn't have been my friend if he had his nose up in the air. And you know, his son Dave now is on the SEC network doing basketball and baseball and some football.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Neal.
He does great too. He sure does.
I repped him when he first got out of college at Florida State.
Wow, I enjoy listening to Dave call a game. He brings that energy. It doesn't matter if it's Vanderbilt or a dud, teams that aren't great, but it doesn't matter who he has. He brings it every single time.
Well, you're living the dream. You grow up and you want to do that, and suddenly you find yourself in a position to do it, and why not? Go for it.
Exactly. Terry, thank you so much. Enjoyed this.
Absolutely. We always appreciate having you on.
Terry, thank you. Vinny, thank you. And we'll do it again sometime, okay?
Most definitely.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Good night, fellas. See you.
Good night.
Bye.
Terry Hanson, Turner Sports, John Boy and Billy Big Show, ran the Blockbuster Bowl.
Among a bunch of other things.
Yes, sir.
And honestly, it's great. I mean, this is year 11. Is this 11 or 12? 11.
It's 11. Uh-huh.
It's year 11. I still enjoy doing it.
Yeah, and get excited, especially when you got a guest. You got a guest, we got a guest, and sometimes it's just you and I, like it was from day one.
Hey, I used to go back and listen to those early ones, and it was bad, man, because it was on Blog Talk. We couldn't see each other, and it didn't click to me like, well, that's part of communication, right? Is how do we talk? We can't see each other for, hey, 1 second, and we figured it out. And then we got Cameron, we got Terry. And because for a while there, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this. I'll be honest. Like for a while there, I was like, it's just me and Vinny talking. Ain't nobody listening. Right? Like nobody's listening to us.
Yeah.
And then you start to have some guests on. Right? I'm going to the Hubie Brown second person. You start to have some guests on. You start to get people responding to you on social media a little bit. The Cats Talk page, right? You get folks like Michelle, both Michelles that start listening, that are fans. I'm like, you're a fan of what I do? And you just keep chugging along, right? And, the next thing we know, we have the opportunity. Well, look, the best thing we've ever done was when we started getting credentialed for the games.
Yep.
I celebrate that anniversary because it was football and we got credentialed as Cats Talk Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, and that was Joker's last game. Was that Joker's last game?
I want to say 2016 was already sitting at Stoops.
I went to Joker's last game. Okay. I went to Joker's last game because
2012 then.
Yeah. Whatever Joker's last game is, because that was the first game I covered.
Okay.
And we were Cats Talk Wednesday then, right? And so I just remember thinking, that's pretty cool. Going up there, seeing all the newspaper folks and the TV folks, and just like, man, this is cool. And since then, you and I have got to do an awful lot of stuff. I don't take any of it for granted.
Yeah.
But it really all started. I'm tweeting away, and you reached out to me like, hey, you want to do this? I'm like, sure, why not? Person I haven't met, we made it. Look,
whatever people say. It was 502 something that you had a UK polo on.
Yeah, that profile picture.
Writing for Nation of Blue or Wildcat Blue Nation or something.
Wildcat Blue Nation. Yeah. But look, man, like, people talk about Twitter.
I'm like, yeah, let me.
And Twitter it's a cesspool, right? But it's a tool. And I can't complain about it, man. you and I started doing this. Because of that, you and I have got to cover our beloved Wildcats literally all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And got to do so much because of that. I got the lovely missus. I just appreciate that. But so as we look back on the end of Cal's run, I think part of what you're seeing online is there's a lot of young kids online.
Yep.
And a lot of young kids, their only entrance into Kentucky has been Coach Cal. Right? And so they're coming at it from a different angle than some of the older people. My thing is, this is going to keep on moving, man.
Yeah, it's moving fast. I mean,
like, it's going to keep on. Whoever the coach is, by the time we have our show next week, Kentucky's going to be good. Like, there's some things that Cal said that you kind of, some of the stuff he said is correct. Kentucky's always going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the world looks like in college sports, Kentucky's going to eat.
Yep.
Because there's want to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason people compare Alabama football to Kentucky basketball because there's want to. There's states with no pro teams. They've decided we will be good at this, whatever it takes to be good at it. And so that's what you have.
Yep.
We have all our eggs in this basket.
Mm-hmm.
Now, am I saying that people don't care about Kentucky football? I'm not saying that. Am I saying that, gymnastics and all? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, as a state, we decided in 1940, whatever, we're going to be good at men's college basketball. That decision was made. And through the years, we have done whatever it took to make that happen.
Yep.
Whatever it took.
Sticking with it for sure.
I've never been about, Cal leaves, we're going to fall off. I've never believed that.
Right.
We're going to be good, whoever it is. I get it. Everybody wants their favorite coach to whatever. But look, man, whatever you think of a coach, he's going to get that Kentucky bump. Okay? Yeah. Because every one of these coaches had their best run where? At Kentucky.
Yep.
Tubby Smith, great coach, maybe in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. But his best run was in Lexington.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to have anything better than he won the 98 championship, but he ain't going to have better teams than the 03, 04, or 05 Kentucky teams.
Yeah.
Like those teams got snake bit, but nothing better.
Yeah.
Pitino ain't going to have nothing better than the 96 Kentucky team. That's his piece de resistance.
Jason,
right?
We got to exactly. Haven't met you guys in person. We fell on swing by the tailgate next season. We got props. Okay. Yes, sir, Jason.
Hey, Jason Huber. Look, man, I told the wife we're coming to a football game. And, I'm here in Big Ten country, and they do football okay here. Let me be very polite. They do football okay, but it's not the SEC. So I'm going to look you up. I'm going to look you up, Huber. Believe that.
You going to be at the spring game Saturday, Jason? You're going to be the blue-white game Saturday? Because I'm going to swing up there.
Are you going? But
going to the spring game. So if you're gonna be there, Jason, I'll look you up this weekend if you're gonna be there.
But my point is, Kentucky basketball is going to be fine, right? We have this debate: is UConn a blue blood? Whatever. Invite them to the club. I don't care because Kentucky is right. Mm-hmm. Because again, it's that 80 years of being way better than average. I mean, keep in mind, as bad as the last 5 years were, or 4 years were, Cal still left here with more NCAA wins than any other coach during his Kentucky run. Mm. That's how good the first part was.
Yeah.
That's how ridiculous it was.
It was ridiculous. Bring the wife and kids for having a huge TB tailgate. Oh, you got your own tailgate named after you. All right.
Well, the problem is when I was covering all those football games, everybody invited me to their tailgates, and I hit a few, but everybody's like, "Hey, TB, won't you have some of this adult beverage?" And you visit a couple, and I'm like, "Man, I got to get right before I go in here to the press box." Like one place I went had a bourbon slushy machine. I was like, "Ooh," you know how you chilling? You're like, "Ooh," then you stand up. You're like, "Oh, I have made some grievous errors."
You just did like Craig on Friday. Nah, I'm cool.
Yeah,
I'm cool. I'm straight. I can go. Oh, yeah.
like, man, I gotta walk up. I gotta cover the game. Ooh, man. Because the thing is, when I cover the game, I get there as soon as they open the media thing. I'm gonna have me 2 meals at least. I'm gonna get 2 of them things at least, on top of the popcorn and everything else. But back to Cal again. A lot of things can be true. The first part of his run was great, man. Like, that was fantastic. The middle part, I mean, that's kind of what you get. But the last few years, look, I'll defend Kentucky fans in this. He didn't get run off. He simply didn't, right? If you want to make an argument that Billy G got run off after 2 years, maybe, but I think it was clear it wasn't going to work. I think Cal will be the first person to tell you, hey, the last couple of years are not Kentucky standards.
No. Mm-mm. And
that's clear.
I think, in his video, you could see it. I tweet out the pauses. When he would pause, you could see him kind of reflecting on it. We feel that the program needs a new voice and this and that and the other, because he knew it slipped on him. He wasn't able to get it back, and we going to move on to Arkansas, and which is as weird as this has been, it's the best for everybody involved. It's a fresh start for him, fresh start for Kentucky, and it's
yes. I believe this was his dream job. I believe this was his dream job. Why wouldn't he was
going to finish here? Thought he was going to finish his career here too.
Because I said going into it, a lot of people giving Arkansas fans trouble because, of course they talk. Okay, all right.
My bad, Jason.
All right, Jason. I mean, you had me at come on, man.
Oh, come on. Oh, so we're here at Keeneland. Well, I might not see you this weekend if you.
Well, the Keeneland double. I love that during the fall meet. I ain't old enough to do it. I know. I mean, I'm too old to do it anymore. But that double dip when it happens is fantastic.
How you got to be?
Well, no, I'm too old for that now. I know what you meant. That Keeneland double dip, because you get maybe 1 or 2 a football season. Yeah. Woo, buddy.
Yeah, me and Katie did it, man. We did the Keeneland double.
Woo, buddy. That can't. Hey, in the SEC, I know they talk about tumors, corners, and this, that. Hey, the Keeneland, I'm gonna say Commonwealth double dip in the same day. You got to plan ahead, man. Mm-hmm. You got to be prepared for that, because you see people that start out and want to do it there at Keeneland, and you're like, man, it's noon o'clock. That kickoff is at 7.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think you gonna make it.
Too much corner is nice, by the way, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but I'm just, that's one of those traditions I love. But look, love Cal. I think as far as exits go, this was the best way.
Yeah.
Because Kentucky did not have to make the outlay to pay Cal to go away.
Mm-hmm.
He did what was best for all parties involved, right? Yeah. And so I'll tip my hat to him, because he could have made it ugly.
Yeah.
But, if Arkansas is coming calling, you do that where we don't have to pay that the $33 million or whatever it was.
Mm. That's it.
Also, the people that wanted Cal gone And now that he's gone, but he didn't go the way you wanted, you got to let that go, man. Like, you didn't want him to be here, but there are some people that wanted him to be humiliated by being fired.
Right.
And my thing is, it was never going to come to that. Do you think he was going to sit down at his desk? HR was going to come tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, can you come with me for a second?" And then, like, they walk him out of the craft center and give him a box of his stuff. Is that what you thought was going to happen? That was never going to happen, right? Like,
oh boy.
But they wanted him to be fired, put on the street. Not going to happen. Like, that's just not going to happen.
No.
Right? So you have to get that fantasy out of your head. But again, it's good for all parties involved. Kentucky basketball is going to be fine. Despite the last couple of years, Cal's run was a success. Because, again, I can't remember who pointed this out, but I thought about this. All the jokey jokes when Cal got hired was put those banners up with Velcro. Them banners are going to come down. Right. I heard a lot of it. I heard a lot of that from my hometown school.
Mm-hmm.
And 15 years later, Vinny, I need you to Google this for me. There's only one men's basketball team that won an NCAA championship, and then that banner got vacated. Only one. I can't remember off the top of my head. So for all that mess y'all talking, it wasn't my coach.
It would be the University of Louisville.
Right.
And I remember when, when Cal was coming, I remember thinking, oh, well, there's been a little Memphis and the UMass, this and that. I can't say it didn't cross my mind. I'm like, I hope.
Oh, yeah. A lot of stuff.
I hope we don't bring that with us. I hope, and, I remember being a little cautious. I wasn't saying don't because of that, but I remember being, and then it plays out and you don't have anything,
Right. Nothing of substance.
Right,
but
exactly.
Before we start to wrap up, we got to give a shout out. Connecticut, way to go, back to back.
Oh yeah, and Shuttlesworth. He was cold. Man, it was cold, man.
Hey, so I fell in love with his game because in 1996, Rupp was a regional site, right? It was the Elite Eight, it was the Sweet 16 Elite Eight. And so it was Georgia Tech, Cincy, Mississippi State, and Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And so this was before it got all out of whack, but you could go watch them practice or scrimmage for like an hour during the day before the game. So I cut class. Sorry, Mom and Dad. I cut class and I went, and me and some friends, we just watched all 4 practices. We booed Cincinnati because you got to boo Cincinnati because the Bearcats. But just watching Ray Allen do these drills, I was like, oh my goodness, this is what a basketball player should be. Like, so that's why I've got a Connecticut Ray Allen jersey. Yes, it's 20 years old at this point, but whatever. Shout out to Connecticut. A dominant run as we've seen in 2 consecutive years. Like, look, man, I'm a ride or die for the 96 Cats being the best team I ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
I know the numbers say Connecticut with the winning margin. The only reason I'm saying that, there's 2. 1, I'm a homer, admittedly. But 2, that 96 team lost twice, and both of those teams made the Final Four.
Right.
Like that's how good the teams that beat them were.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my thing. And honestly, if you go back and watch those games, the worst 2 games they played all year were in the Final Four.
Yeah. It's crazy. The
UMass game came down to Anthony Epps, like, I guess I got to play 45 minutes tonight. Like, or, it was basically that. And then the championship game is like, well, Ron Mercer, you're high school All-American. Why don't you set your career high, 20 point, the worst 2 games they played were in the Final Four. So I'm a ride or die for the 96 Kentucky team.
and still had enough to win it. He still had enough to get it done, playing their worst 2 games.
Right. That was that. And again, I'm ride or die for those teams, but Connecticut, shout out to them. Shout out to Dawn Staley in the USC women.
Mm-hmm.
They a machine, man. Like
38, no.
Yeah, hey.
This team, and they ain't going nowhere. This was supposed to be the rebuild team.
Look, man, the craziest thing is they're 108-3 over the last 3 seasons.
Yep.
One of the 3 is to the UK. That will never not be weird to me. Like that, just how that happened.
Yeah,
but
Jay Billis always says that Purvis Ellison and them, they got my ring. Well, Don, like Kyra Elsie and them got one of my SEC tournament titles.
Hey, she's built a machine, and hey, it's still scary hours women's basketball. They're not going anywhere.
No,
this could be one of those Connecticut, Tennessee runs where it's like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, look, I got to give a shout out to Iowa.
Oh yeah.
We love it in our house because when Caitlin Clark gets announced, she says West Des Moines, Iowa, which is the same place as my lovely wife is from. So I'm a big fan of brunettes from West Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
So look, hey, and as I asked Terry, you look at how underserved women's basketball has been. It's just a few years ago they had that, as my mom would say, trifling weight room.
Yeah, man.
Where it was like a shake weight and a bench, and like, what is that? Right? And it was just a few years ago, maybe with last 2, that they were even able to say the women's tournament was March Madness. Like they couldn't use it. And so I remember I saw a tweet. I can't remember who it was now. I don't want to guess. But basically, like ESPN has had rights to the women's tournament for years.
Mm-hmm.
And they have just underserved that tournament. And when you see advocates of women's sports talk about investment, that's what it is. Like ESPN, you had this for relatively cheap, right? Nope. They had the women's rights for relatively cheap, and it's like you just put a little bit into it. What do you get back? All these games from Elite 8 on setting records.
Mm-hmm.
I know Caitlin Clark effect and all that kind of stuff, but it was the who was it? I can't remember who USC Connecticut game after the LSU Iowa game. That game would have set a record, better than last year. Like if you build it, they will come. We got to say that because it's Iowa. But seriously, the thing that the women's game has working for it, you've got teams that you know and players that you come to know.
Yeah.
That's how this works, right? So I was talking to the wife the other day, and you have to look around and say, how did these sports leagues get to where they are, right? So we now have some investment in women's sports. The halftime show with Elle Duncan and that whole pregame halftime show is the best. One, you can tell they genuinely care about the product they're covering. They explain to you about all the teams and everything like that. You can tell they watch the games. It's not just this surface level. Well, if you cover Caitlin Clark, that's that. No, they give you some nuance to it. Yeah. I love the NBA on on TNT as a TV show, but I ain't learning nothing from them, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's fun. Ernie Johnson's doing his best, but you're not getting anything from Charles Barkley. Like, why is Steph Curry tough to guard? We're not getting that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ESPN is like, hey, we're going to dump these resources. We got this good studio crew that is going to push us forward. And you watch a lot of baseball, there's nothing worse than these leagues and their TV partners having these former players that tell you why the product you're watching ain't as good as when they play. Then why am I watching this? And I can go on to YouTube and watch when you play, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's the one thing the NBA on TNT crew will tell you. Well, Giannis couldn't do this in our league, and and Joker couldn't do it. Like, then why am I watching? There's that fine line between you celebrate and remember the folks of the past, but like, this is why you should watch this guy now, right? And that misses the boat. Same way with baseball. John Smoltz, I don't know if he likes baseball or not.
Yeah.
Because he'll tell you in a heartbeat, "Hey, I don't know why you're watching this." I'm like, it's NLCS. Can't you give me something?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the NBA was great when they were like, you know what? We got Lakers and Celtics. We got these other rivalries. That's what we're going to build on. Because, again, you remember I didn't realize it was up until we were almost 10 or 11. Playoff games were on tape delay for the NBA.
Unbelievable.
Right? And so they made that jump. The downfall was they were like, hey, Michael Jordan's popular. We're going to make him the dude. And so in the 30 years since Michael Jordan is retired, I've got a bunch of dudes telling me, yeah, you like Kobe. He ain't Michael Jordan. Oh, you like LeBron. He ain't Michael Jordan. Oh, Tim Duncan. He don't do it like Michael Jordan does. And I'm like, that's to a detriment. Like, I don't need a GOAT debate every time there's a game on national television. Explain to me why this player and this team I should watch and be invested in instead of comparing them to Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the NBA isn't doing what it's supposed to do. Now, the NFL decided a long time ago, this is how we're going to get this done, right? The NFL decided we got Sundays, right? It's easy. It's one day a week. You only got to pay attention and it's made for TV. The NFL game is. But another part of that is they gave us NFL films. They brought in, kind of Hollywood directors, and then they gave us John Facenda, the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Mm-hmm. And you watch those old NFL films, and they're in Green Bay, right? And they've just got these dramatic shots of the steam as people are breathing, right? And you feel that. It feels like these are gladiators going to battle, right? Or you got these, you got these old Dolphin teams, and they got the sun coming in, and it's the silhouette. And in Dallas, you got the light coming in, the light in the dark in Texas Stadium, right? And football is very beautiful, right? You have action, then you stop and you can talk about it, and then you do some more action. And so the NFL leaned in this. We're going to make these guys these mythical dudes. And I'm rambling, but I wish, particularly with the NBA, they would do more of that. But they got women's basketball where it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Look, man, I don't know if Caitlin Clark is the GOAT. I need, if I can have a critique, I need less Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. I mean, look, man. So the Iowa-UConn game comes down to that moving screen call.
Mm-hmm.
It's a foul. The debate is, do you call it or not? But it's a foul, right?
Yeah.
But you can't have that questionable play against UConn and then go to Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi on their impact. And look, I tweeted that. A lot of people are like, well, look, what do you expect? Exactly. You can't come to me as a Kentucky fan and be like, Kentucky just lost to Oakland. We're going to go to Terry Brown. I'm going to be salty as hell. I'm going to be honest with you, but you shouldn't expect that. Don't come to me if Kentucky loses on a questionable call. So that was bad. But other than that, look, man, it's good for women's sports. Like
Yeah.
like the other Terry said, he's got 2 girls. I've got 2 girls that play sports, and I've had conversations with them, and it means something. They don't play basketball, although I wish they would.
Mm-hmm.
I do think my oldest would be a great power forward. She's as tall as I am. I think but anyway. But just to see people care about women's sports is huge. It just is. So tip my hat to the South Carolina ladies. Dawn Staley got a beast there in Columbia.
Yeah.
She got a beast, man, and she got it rolling. So,
and to be as fiercely competitive as she is, she's still classy. She's still in the middle of which she broke down with Holly Rowe. I mean, just the emotion. She couldn't even speak for the first 30 seconds or a minute into the interview. And then she composed herself and started talking about her team and their accomplishments. And then, you just won your 3rd championship. You're undefeated. This team probably wasn't even supposed to win it all. She still took time, and I was tweeting with your wife about this. She still took time to thank Caitlin Clark for everything that she had contributed to the game in the midst of all of that. So that was just real classy, and just the wherewithal to do that and to have that perspective. And because a lot of people, everybody want to pump their chest and look what I did.
Absolutely.
And all about me. And she still took a minute to sincerely congratulate Caitlin in Iowa. So that was just you couldn't have handled that any better if you were her.
That was fantastic. Yeah.
So this show was fantastic. We hope everybody that listened enjoyed it. Appreciate everybody that tuned into it. We'll all usher in the new era of UK coaches, see where direction Mitch Barnhart goes, see who's going to be bringing in players and getting the team ready for this fall and all that. So that's going to move quickly, just like all this other news has. So I'm with you, Terry. Like you said, so many things can be true at the same time. So the parting of the ways was best. Wish Cal the best down there in Arkansas. It looks weird seeing them in red. Hope the Cats beat them when we play them. And that's pretty much where I'm at on it. Thank Terry Hanson for coming. Thank you for coming and doing your thing. Appreciate all your insights and your thoughts. Got to meet Jason Huber at the tailgate. So when y'all come in, definitely hit him up. If you can leave Keeneland in time, I'll be there this weekend, Jason. And we'll do this all
good
again.
people.
I'm looking forward to meeting him. Appreciate all the comments and you taking the time to pop in here and holler at us in the comments, man. As well as College Sportscast and Michelle and all the listeners, Cal Hatfield, Carl Holiday. Appreciate everybody that took time to comment. We'll be back next week doing it all again. Check out the Autograph app as well. Listen to podcasts, articles, coaching search news. Go to the Autograph app, download it, use our promo code Cats Talk, CATSTALK, and get points, earn swag, and keep up with everything you're going to keep up with anyway. Autograph Phantom Reward app. TV, man, enjoyed it. Catch you next week. BS3 Network. Appreciate you putting us on there.
Hopefully we have a coach by then. And whoever it is, I'm rocking with him, man. Like, that's the thing, too, is most of the coaches that came in, we didn't think they was going to do a whole lot. Tubby coming from Georgia, okay. Even Cal with all his baggage. Like, he talked a good game. So whoever it is, we're going to be all right. Yeah. Kentucky is going to eat. Believe that. We'll be fine.
Absolutely. Well said. We'll put a bow on this one. Appreciate y'all watching. It'll be up on Roku as well and Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Appreciate all y'all doing. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Cats Talk Wednesday. For Terry, this is Vinny. Thanks again to Terry Hanson. We'll see everybody next week on Cats Talk Wednesday on the BS3 Network.